Attention!
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order! Lid! Mark time. March. Live. Live. Forward. March. Live. 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 Leave. One. Two.
You may be seated, and please join me in a warm round of applause for the Coeur d'Alene Firefighters Honor Guard. And now please bow your heads for our invocation. Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to come together with our colleagues and friends to hear from Mayor Hammond. Thank you, Lord, for creating this beautiful place we get to call home. Please bless and protect all of the individuals who lead our community, whether it be through employment or volunteer services. We are deeply grateful for their contributions to running our beautiful city and to their commitment to preserving our unique quality of life. Please lend us your ears to listen intently to the needs of our community, your heart to respond generously, and your courage to lead boldly. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Well, good morning. Mayor Jim Hammond was raised in Missoula, Montana. His work experience began early, working for the Coca-Cola bottling plant from 4th grade until out of high school. He received his Bachelor of Arts at Carroll College, a Master of Education Administration at Whitworth College, and then furthered his public administration studies through the University of Idaho. Jim worked in education administration as an elementary principal in Washington and in Idaho. Since 1976, he has served the residents of Kootenai County as Idaho State Senator and Mayor of Post Falls, Idaho, President of City Council, and Commissioner for Planning and Zoning in Post Falls, Idaho. He's certified as an International City Manager Association credentialed manager and served as both Post Falls City and Coeur d'Alene City Administrator. Jim has dedicated his life to collaborative government, ensuring community safety and building unified cities. His roles in government and his position on numerous state and local boards. Jim and his beautiful wife, Cindy, have 3 sons and 6 grandchildren, one of whom is here with us today. Mackenzie, could you please stand? It's a real treat to have you here. Thanks for coming. He's been a resident of Idaho and Kootenai County since 1973. And throughout his life, he successfully brought people together to solve problems, employing unique strengths of individuals and the collective wisdom of our community. He has a huge heart for our community, and I'm very grateful to call him my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a warm welcome for the Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Jim Hammond.
Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. Before I get into the discussion of the state of the city, I want to recognize Linda and her staff for their efforts to make a chamber so important to the community, so important to business, their rebranding effort, and their efforts to always be something that means business for all of us. Thank you for that. Also, thank you for all the build-up to this speech today. I've never been so frickin' nervous in my life. Thinking, geez, how easy could I screw that up? I would like to introduce a few folks. First, Dr. Cindy Hammond. As it was said earlier, behind every successful man is a strong woman. Well, actually, that's not true. Cindy is never behind me. I would like to recognize our city council because these people are the people that really make a difference, and they are a wonderful group with whom to work. Councilman Gookin, would you please stand? Yes. Councilman Miller. Councilman McEvers. Councilman Evans. Councilman Wood. And Councilman English. Thank you. I want to also recognize the administrative team for all that they do. And would you please stand as you're introduced? Renata McLeod, Municipal Services. Randy Adams, City Attorney. And you're afraid I'd skip him. Chief Lee White. Fire Chief Tom Greif. Planning Director Hillary Patterson. The Chief Building Official Ted Lancy. From Streets and Engineering, our Director Todd Fougere. Todd, I'll never say it right. Our Human Resources Director Melissa Tosi. Wastewater Superintendent Mike Anderson. Oh, you're still here, Mike. That's a little inside joke. Our Water Superintendent, Kyle Marine. Comptroller, Bonnie Jensen. Bill Greenwood, our Parks and Rec Director. And Michael Priest, our Library Director. When you talk about the state of the city, one of the things I wanted to emphasize is in recent years, this city has received a lot of accolades. And sometimes we've been kind of grumpy about those accolades because it shines such a light on us that everybody wants to move here. But on the other side of that, in terms of the state of our city, I think it's really important to recognize that. This year, Coeur d'Alene was ranked second among best performing small cities in the country by the Millikan Institute. Now that's a big deal. This is the 6th year we have been recognized among the top 10 in the nation among small cities. That's really something. Recognized as the best place to live, top adventure town, quality of life, top tourist destination, the best for economic development and business development, one of the safest cities in Idaho. And we got a Trader Joe's. Thank you, that's all I have. No, you're not getting off that easy. One other recognition that I want to talk about for just a moment, because I believe it goes beyond me. And this winter I was recognized as the first pillar of Idaho. And that's a big deal for this city because they wanted to recognize someone, and I think I represent all of you in that respect, who pushed civility, who pushed equal rights for all, who encouraged inclusivity for all. And that's what we do as a community. And I think it's important that when this group in Boise was trying to decide on someone to recognize for that, they recognized the mayor of Coeur d'Alene. That's not something I got, that's something we all receive together because we all believe in that. And for that, I thank you very much. We are growing. And because, number one, because it's a great place to live. And people want to be here. How many people have you talked to who said, I came here for some kind of a meeting and decided, or I drove through here, I want to live here? That happens all the time. And we have seen population grow from 51,650 to 58,221 in about 5 years. And that kind of growth brings both opportunities and challenges, and we're going to talk about that today. But when someone says to you that growth is crazy, that kind of growth that I just talked about is really about 1.9% a year. So it's actually not nearly as egregious as some people will have you believe. But if we look at the next slide, one of our challenges is, and I'm a member of that group, but I've been here a long time, is that our biggest group in growth is in seniors. Now, there are some advantages to having seniors move to your community. They'll typically buy a higher-end home, which typically pays higher taxes, but they demand less in services. They aren't putting kids in school. And Sean, I saw you over there. There you are, Sean, which isn't great for Sean and the schools because they're challenged to provide that education with less student dollars. But it is wonderful from the respect that they do contribute from that respect. But they don't add to our workforce. So we have to figure out something there, and we'll talk about that more later. What we've seen in Coeur d'Alene, and again, an article was in the paper today, and Kiki, I think it was yesterday, that your second article came on the paper about housing. That's a big challenge for us. Traffic, public safety and security, protecting our environment. Those are challenges that come with growth. And we're going to talk about those today. A housing study was done by the University of Idaho in conjunction with PAHA, Panhandle Affordable Housing Alliance, Coeur d'Alene Economic Development Corporation, which some of us still remember as Jobs Plus, and Avista. And what we find, and what you are reading, this really isn't news for you, is a housing price, a median housing price increase of 143% and an average price increase of 151%. So the typical home right now is priced at $535,000, but the average listing price is $622,000. That's in 7 years. Well, that's really not sustainable. But also, it creates some economic challenges for us. According to that same study, because of that increase in housing, we've lost 5,340 jobs, which is a reduction in our regional product, gross regional product, of $535 million, and a loss of payroll of $435 million, and a loss in local taxes of $28 million. All of that creates challenges. When we were working, after all the sawmills closed down, the lumber mills, when they closed down and we were so hurting, one of the values that we had is you can come here from almost anywhere and buy a more affordable home than where you live. That isn't something we're able to tout anymore, and it's something we still have to work on, and we are working on them. This is another indication. Look at how the permits have dropped. In 2023, we saw duplexes and other single-family dwellings drop 48%. Multifamily dropped 82%. That's just contributing to the problem. What does it do? We all know smaller market, pushing up prices, and pushing people out. So as a city, we're not going to do public housing. First of all, I personally don't think that works. But number two, it's just not something that we would do in North Idaho. But we do need to look as a city at the kind of regulations that we have that are roadblocks. And so we're trying to work to provide what we call accessory dwelling units. So if you've got some kids who've gone to college and are back home to work, but they can't afford their own place, you can use that as an accessory dwelling unit where they can live separately, or grandparents or parents that need that, or you just want to rent it to someone. But it's one way to create more opportunities for someone to be able to afford a place to live. Now, we also went, and not without any angst, and annexed Coeur. But the biggest importance of that, in my view, is that because we did that, we provided more opportunity to build homes, which could create more stability in the price of housing, both multifamily and single-family housing. So I think that was an important thing to do. And it's also probably one of the last big annexations Coeur d'Alene will ever do. We're also working to do what we call twin homes that would normally only allow a single home on a R12 lot. That's 12 houses per acre. And we'll be working, because some of this will be in the Fort Grounds or at Sanders Beach or other historical neighborhoods. And so we want to work with our Historical Preservation Commission to make sure that we build homes in that area that blend in and add to the essence of that neighborhood. Well, I've never complained about traffic, but I'm sure some of you have. It's a challenge, mainly because it's gotten to be so expensive. When I was a kid, traffic lights were all timed. And they were very simple. They went one direction for a while, they switched and went the other direction for a while. There weren't any left turn lights. You just had to take your chance. So the cost was certainly much lower and much easier to maintain. Now, it's much more of a challenge because the traffic signals are more abundant and they are much more complex. And some of our signals are very old. I asked Todd, I said, what are some of our oldest signals? The one at Sherman and Coeur d'Alene Lake Drive is 35 years old. Still the same technology as 35 years ago. The one at Best in Appleway is 40 years old. Some of you are not that old yet. So we are working to, number one, upgrade those signals, and number two, synchronize them. We did that on Sherman. Some of my friends say we didn't do it quite right, but it's a difficult challenge to continue to maintain. But we've received $8.4 million to continue to upgrade and synchronize that equipment. Government Way is our next big project, and then after that, Ramsey Road. So we're going to continue to try to create the way for traffic signals to talk to one another and to be in synchronization so you don't have to stop at every signal. We hope that'll work. And I know people cuss ITD because 95 is really their bailiwick, and some of the traffic off of 95 is also regulated by them. But they're great to work with. They're a good partner, and they want to make it go smoothly as much as we do. One of the things I wanted to talk about, though, is last fall there was a proposal. Wasn't it last fall, Dan, when we were going to do the signals and have a central spot to monitor the traffic? And people were worried about the cameras. Well, first of all, those cameras are the same cameras that we've been using for 25 years at least. So it's nothing new, but also they are to detect traffic. not to detect you as an individual or detect a certain kind of car. They can't do that, number one. And number two, there's no retention of that information that goes into the camera. It's not like it's being recorded. So, you know, those British shows where they have cameras everywhere, it's not the same. You can see that bottom right image. That's what you see on a camera. And it isn't something that's going to invade your privacy. And you can share that with people. They don't zoom in. No information is stored. So we can relax. The crime rate, we talked about being a safe city, but look at that reduction in crime. Look at all these people back here in blue. Hey, guys. They are the ones that are making this happen, and congratulations to you. Now, yesterday something came out in the paper about a spike in a certain kind of crime, but overall, we're doing very well, and we can feel good because as you see that drop, that's at the same time that we're a growing population. It's an upward curve of growth and a downward curve of crime. That's a hell of a deal. Our investment is returning very well on our police department, and I thank you very much for that. Something else that Chief White proposed was an opioid task force. And the idea is not necessarily to arrest all users or abusers, but to get them the help that they need to get them off the opioids. And also to arrest those that are promulgating that kind of drug. The task force is going to partner with the North Idaho Crisis Center, Panhandle Health, and Heritage Health to get those people the help they need. Now, I know most of you know what the Panhandle Health is, and you know what Heritage Health is. You probably don't know much about North Idaho Crisis Center. It is an organization that the legislature funded, and they've got them all over the state now. We were one of the first. But it's a place where someone in crisis, whether it's drugs or mental health, whatever, whether they're suicidal or just frightened, they can go there. And they can stay there almost 24 hours. And they have all kinds of expertise at the center that can figure out what kind of help they need. And before they leave that center, they will leave with a list of people to contact and help that they can receive ongoing. So it isn't a one-shot Charlie kind of thing. It's a long-term solution to their challenges. And I get frustrated. I am the president of that board right now, just because I was there at the wrong time. But I believe so strongly that we need to take the shame away from mental health problems and depression and those kinds of things. We can no longer say, oh, come on, buck up, get going. That doesn't work, and we need to be aware of that as a country and as our own city. That is essential for us and how we become a better community. Thank you. We're also working, through our guys in blue, to make downtown safe and friendly. And that is, they have a team of folks in the summer particularly that wander through the bars, not imbibing, but helping the bar folks know how to handle people and making sure that we're not over-serving people. But this year, we've added a bike team. There are 6 e-bikes, and they are really nice bikes, that they secured through a grant from the Justice Department, which will further enable people to be, policemen to be around downtown or wherever else they choose to go and be able to respond quickly, particularly like within the parks. Thanks again for that, Chief. Another challenge of growth is protecting our environment. When you shower, wash, flush, it has to go somewhere. And in the days of old, that was just flushed into rivers. Well, obviously, that no longer works. And we see an increase in the flow into our wastewater plant. And it's substantial. It's like 17%. But at the same time, there are really two major pollutants, ammonia and phosphorus. They are the worst things to put into our lakes and river. And actually, the outflow for our treatment plant is the river just below the mouth there. But what you need to know is that Coeur d'Alene wastewater has reduced the amount of ammonia by 99%. I mean, that's huge. That is substantial. Phosphorus has been reduced by 87%. Now, they're measuring this in parts per billion. So they're really getting down to the very small pollutants and the kinds of filtration and the kinds of purification that they do make the water actually drinkable. I'm not going to prove that right now, but the thing is, we're putting water back into the lake and the river that is cleaner than the water that already exists there. So thank you guys for that. Thanks, wastewater. I want to remind you, free compost giveaway is April 6th and 7th. Christy got some of that, and she grew tomatoes, and I don't like tomatoes, but she gave me some of her tomatoes after doing that. They are excellent. They are the sweetest tomatoes. Go get that, but don't go all at once. Last year there was this long line, so don't go all at once, but it's good stuff. Coeur d'Alene. We're also looking at water usage. You know, in the winter, we only use about 6 million gallons per day, which is about the size of maybe 12 Olympic-sized pools. But in the summer, we use 40 million gallons per day, which is about 80 pools. Well, and we, the city and school district, we're the worst sinners. And one of our goals will be to look at ways that we can still have parks and still have turf, but make it less intensive in terms of water usage. We need to be aware of the fact that we have a wonderful aquifer and we need to treat it with care. We've done a lot to protect it pollutant-wise, but we also need not abuse it in terms of how much water we pull out. So we're going to be working on that. Also, the city of Coeur d'Alene used to take all the storm water, you know, when it rains or when the snow melts, and it will all just flow into the lake. Well, it's not just rainwater and melting snow. It's also salts and oils and phosphorus that we use on our lawns, all things that are not good for our lake. Well, we have been working very hard and are removing a substantial amount of that stormwater that we used to put into the lake. Now, some people cuss swales, but swales are a wonderful thing to take that water and filter it right there before it goes in the aquifer or flows down into the lake. The other thing that we do is we catch that stormwater and put it in basins that filter it with sand and other things before it goes into either the aquifer or the lake. Hundreds of acres of stormwater are now being captured and diverted from our surface waters. Atlas Waterfront. We talked about this last year, but I just had to share a couple thoughts on it because there was some beef about the high-end homes that are on there. Well, the high-end homes paid for some high-end soil upon which to build those. And you know what that high-end soil did? It's bringing forth the funds that we needed to pay off our debt on buying that property. We bought it for $9 million. But if we look what we had before. An empty mill site. And look what we have now. If the lights weren't so bright up here. We have 12 acres equivalent to 4,000 linear feet of waterfront access in addition to the other access to the lake. That's huge. And that's probably our last hurrah in terms of getting access to water. And had we not purchased it, had we just let it develop privately, I can assure you those would have all been waterfront properties and they would not have had public access. So, and I worked on it when I was in Troy's job, but I thank Mayor Widmeyer and all the folks that made that happen. But also when you hear complaints about those high-end homes, that's part of what's making this possible. So I just wanted to share that with you. I want to talk about art for a minute. I think that art adds to the value of our community. Now there is good research that says it's a good contributor to our economic development. But I think it also just adds to the culture and the feeling of our community. And I think that has value. And I thank the Arts Commission. We now have over 150 unique art pieces. I don't love all of them. I'm sure some of you don't. But that's the value of art. There's something for all of us. I'd also like to talk about the Coeur d'Alene Arts and Cultural Alliance because they also work to bring art to our community, particularly performing arts. And the pavilion down in Riverstone is just wonderful, particularly now that we've able to put some shade over the performers. If you're ever looking for something to do on a nice warm summer evening, it's really fun just to sit down there in the grass or bring a chair and you can have a wonderful evening there. So, what else are we challenged with? Well, management of short-term rentals, downtown parking, the rising cost of personnel and operations, education, cybersecurity. What about short-term rentals? We have seen a 250% increase from 2019 to 2023. And I am not saying we shouldn't have them, but I am saying we need to preserve the integrity of neighborhoods. It's not fair to ask someone to live in a neighborhood where 6 of the 12 homes are short-term rentals. You can't create community with people who are there for a week or two and leave. That doesn't work right. I guess I'm saying I respect all property rights, but they have to balance each other. If you look at our citywide short-term rental, it shows you how many short-term rentals we have out there. And equally important, 200 of them are not licensed with the city. I just don't think that's fair to those neighborhoods. Most of those are historical neighborhoods. I like to stay in a short-term rental when we travel sometimes, but there has to be a balance. Parking. We currently provide 2,250 parking spaces between the parking garage on between 3rd and 4th, McEwen parking lot, and Memorial Field. Downtown business owners buy 420 of those, and residents buy 690 of those. But there's still a lot of parking spaces left. You can't build parking lots for Easter Sunday and Christmas midnight mass. I don't want a whole bunch of impervious surface sitting there most of the time, because what happens? That's just creating stormwater that we have to capture and treat. I don't think that's of good value. So we have to find a way to balance parking against what we're doing with the environment. And in terms of building another parking garage, it's not going to be easy to find the space. So we continue to work on that, but just from my perspective, I don't speak for the rest of the council, I want to balance that. And I think you have to use the fact that, not like days of old, you can't always park right in front of where you want to go. You're going to have to walk a little bit. You know, there's that song, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They pave paradise and put up a parking lot. Well, that song actually has some meaning to us, and we certainly want to make sure that there's adequate parking so we're not pushing commercial parking into residential neighborhoods. But we also want to make sure that we have a balance in that. And who knows, 20 years from now, as we get more into different kinds of transportation, maybe we won't need all those individual parking lots. I want to talk about, and you're going to want to give me some cheese with my wine here, but our costs have really risen as well. You wonder, where does that money go? Well, you're looking at the cost of a fire truck, a ladder truck. The last one we bought was $1.4 million, which I thought was huge. But now it would cost us $2.2 million. A fire engine, it doesn't have a ladder on. $583,000 for the last one, now $1.1 million. A dump truck, just a dump truck, was $42,000 in 2004, $191,000 in 2019. Today, almost $250,000 for a dump truck. So it's a real challenge. And we bought one new dump truck, and it took us about 8 months to get it from the time that we ordered it, or was it even longer? Most of our trucks are at least, 20 years old? Yeah. Well, as much use as they get and abuse that they get, and not intentional abuse, but plowing streets is abusive it's hard on trucks. We should have more newer trucks than that. And it worries me just because we get a big storm and all of a sudden our trucks aren't reliable. But you can see on the other hand, we don't have a whole bunch of $250,000 to buy trucks. Personnel. A police officer 2019-20 cost $133,000. Now it costs us $162,000. A firefighter in 2019 was $154,000. Now it's $177,000. I don't want to talk about negotiations, you guys. We're trying to add an addition to our PD building, which was built in 1999 for 75 employees. It now has 121 employees, which is a 61% increase, and we haven't added anything to that building. And we got $4.5 million. I'm thinking, we'll double the size of that building. Well, that wasn't my most brilliant moment. All we get to do with that money is take and build locker rooms sufficient so all the staff have a locker. That's all we can get out of that, and remodel the old locker rooms into office space, which is really cubicles, not individual offices. So it doesn't buy what it used to buy. We talked about my days as a school principal. We built brand new schools for $3 million. Perhaps that's just me getting old. Cybersecurity. I'm going to talk about it for a moment, but we had a malware incursion. And people have asked me, well, what happened? What did you do? And both our own attorneys and our malware expert cybersecurity attorneys have said, do not share what you did, do not share what happens, because that just emboldens those people. It's kind of like giving the lock to the door or the combination to the safe to these people when you share all that information. So it's not that we're hiding it, it's that we're trying to be protective of your information and our employees. What's interesting is it is difficult to completely protect yourself. According to Forbes, there are 4 companies every minute getting attacked. 4 companies every minute. And you look at Google, you look at Microsoft, they're getting attacked, they're getting hacked. So you know it's really difficult to be completely foolproof. But we have deployed the most advanced security tools. We've conducted throughout our system, making them change their password, and installed hardware and system improvements because we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can. Nick and his wife Nikki, Nick Swain, I should say Dr. Swain, are at a different meeting, but I wanted to recognize them and I want to recognize Save NIC, because those folks are really working hard for the investment that we all have in that institution. It's important to our economic development, and it's also important to our future students. And I want to talk about Kinsey for a minute. Kinsey, she was an excellent student, far better than I would have ever been. She was awarded, when she graduated from high school, the Cecil Andrus Award, which granted her a 4-year scholarship to any Idaho institution. Now, but Mackenzie didn't take 4 years because of her work at NIC. She's graduating this spring with her bachelor's degree in 3 years. So that's a savings to the state, that's a savings to the scholarship funds, and it gives another student more opportunity because of what high school students can access at NIC. Another reason that NIC is so important to us, and another reason that everybody better be voting and dragging all their friends and neighbors to vote this fall. We do have challenges, but overall, we're doing really well. And all that work that all of us have put in is paying off, as you can see in the accolades that Coeur d'Alene continues to receive. I still think it's important, as I said last year, that we promote civility, inclusivity, and equal treatment of everyone. There is a challenge, and I'm speaking to those people who are millennials and Generation Z. You need to step up. I'm sure that one of you could be up here now doing a better job than I, and I'm not kidding. I think that we need more younger people in governance, in chambers, in Kiwanis and Lions and oh my. We need more younger people. And if you're the parent of one of these younger people, make sure that they make you a grandparent over and over again. Remember that one slide where that youngest group is really lacking in representation? I'm happy to put together some classes if that's what we need, but we need more younger people having children and bringing them up to be a part of our community. I think the state of our city is excellent, and that's due to all of you people out there who are contributing. And I want to thank all of my city staff. Could you stand up for just a minute? Oh, it's always in vogue at this kind of speech to thank your employees and say how wonderful they are. But I've always had interest in governance since I was a kid, and I have watched the city of excellence. I have watched this city become greater and greater as a city of excellence, and it's due to their work, not mine. So thank you very much. Well, we're doing well. Yeah, we got Trader Joe's. But actually, that's going to be cool, right? Where, they were originally, that building was originally a Rosar's, for those of you who don't know. And now it's back to selling groceries again. But the synchronization between that and Pilgrims, and then some other businesses that are coming up along 3rd and 4th, I think it's really helping our community grow in a positive way. Businesses want to be here. We have to solve the housing issue, and it's not something that happens overnight, but we will continue to do our part, and we hope you will as well. Listen, you're all very kind to come today to listen to me. There's so much I want to share that I just can't get it all out, but I'm already way over my time. I apologize for that, but I thank you very much for coming today, and thank you for being a part of our community.
You've been a teacher, and just after 4 years of teaching, you were promoted to principal. You've been a city administrator in both Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls. You've been a mayor in Post Falls. Now you're a mayor in Coeur d'Alene. You've been a senator for the great state of Idaho. What a resume. Why is public service such a big part of your life?
I don't think that there's, in my life, we have seen, got to do one or the other, I guess. We have seen in recent years some real concerns back in DC, and dare I say, even in Boise, regarding priorities in legislation. I saw today a bill that got out of the Senate committee to protect us from knives. Who in this room asked for a bill to have more protection from knives and make sure that cities don't regulate knives? Who in this room? Yeah, that's what I thought. If we look back in DC, if we look at the people that are going to be running for president of our country, to me, it's just discouraging, maybe frightening. There are a lot of those kinds of adjectives we could use. But it seems to me we could do a lot better. And the problem is we are not all engaged. Everyone has to be engaged. And I've just naturally had that interest. But also, I wanted to say, and the way that you have a say is you get engaged.
Thank you. Outside of cyber attacks, what keeps you up at night in regards to the city business?
It really isn't any particular issue. I know people say, oh, no, you don't look like it, but I'm still overwhelmed when I read proclamations. It always, and therefore I, James Hammond, mayor of the city of Coeur d'Alene, I want to look around and think, oh, who is that guy? I want to be the best I can be as your mayor. I don't want to fail you. That's my biggest concern. I want to do well for you. I love this community. I love to serve you, and that's why I'm standing here right now.
Great humble answer. Thank you, sir. What is your goal as mayor to balance the goal of fostering economic development with the desire of North Idahoans to keep our natural resources pristine for generations to come?
Actually, as you heard, if you hadn't fallen asleep, you'd know the answer to that.
My apology.
We really are investing in our community in terms of our environment. We protect Tubbs Hill. We are doing a better and better job with our wastewater treatment. We're going to do a better and better job with the amount of water that we use. The amount of, for a while, I was living off of Mullen Trail Road, and when I come into town, I could see in the fall, particularly, it was just gorgeous, all the trees. Boise goes by Tree City, and I thought, boy, they haven't seen Coeur d'Alene from a little above, because as you come down that hill into Coeur d'Alene, all those trees are just excellent for our environment. And it's that kind of stuff that we need to continue to do. And get your Coeur d'Alene.
A big priority for the Coeur d'Alene Regional Chamber is to build strategic partnerships in our region. How can our business community best support the city of Coeur d'Alene?
Well, you can best support us by being successful. And if we're doing something that inhibits that success, we need to know. We need to know that we're your obstacle to success. It's important that we support you. You are just as important to us as a city is in terms of what it does for you. And I want businesses to be successful. That's why I believe so strongly in the chamber and always have. I want businesses to be successful. We all benefit from that because we all enjoy that success.
Those are the questions that I have. Thank you very much, Mayor Hammond, for serving and in all that you do. It's an honor to be on your team.